everyone, Genome here, coming at you with the next episode of Was It Good? Yes, I am still neck deep in the hack and or slash section of my Was It Good playlist. So, as most of you know, I have been reviewing the Friday the 13th movies in their entirety. So it's been a Herculean undertaking, to say the least. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it's been a daunting task nonetheless. Just checking out the movies one by one to see if they still hold the same place in my heart they did back in the 80s, when I was actually watching these movies a lot. So, yes, I haven't seen most of these since the 80s or maybe early 90s at the latest, so it's been kind of fun actually revisiting a lot of these, but looking at them with more of a nuanced eye than I once did. So we have covered parts 1 through 7 so far, and so logically speaking, and chronologically speaking, we're going to be moving on to part 8 next. Jason Takes Manhattan. Oh boy. So anyway, yeah, I was not looking forward to watching this one because I remember even back in the 80s, during the heyday of my horror fan geekdom, I didn't like this movie. I thought it was awful. A lot of the viewing public did as well, and a lot of people consider this maybe the worst Friday. That's up for some debate. Usually the numbers bandied about are 5, 8, and 9 being the worst. I don't believe 5 belongs on that list, in all honesty. With some MPA rollbacks a little bit, it'd probably be up there in decent, at least in the middle ranges somewhere. But anyway, I digress. I've already reviewed 5. We're talking about 8 now. So 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Okay, so they want to do something completely new, right? So the last foray into the series, we had Jason versus the Psychic, and this time, or I guess it's not even a psychic, it's like telekinetic psychic. I don't know, whatever she was. Anyway, she faced her, and that was over. After the movie was over, he is once again at the bottom of the lake via the recreated version of her father. I don't know, because I don't think anyone else really does either. But so Jason is still down there, just ready for another sequel. So let's dig in and find out whether or not it was a worthy addition to the series. So once again, of course, we start back on Crystal Lake. People have not got the memo about this place yet. And in the background shot, there's this Camp Crystal Lake. It's literally called Camp Crystal Lake. There's power there, so obviously people have decided, that the lakes are just too rare in this country. We have to keep going to this one for camps, even though probably at this point over 100 people have died there. But hey, let's just keep going, Just must be old urban myths or something. So we now see something else we haven't seen in the series, a houseboat. There's actually a recreational boat on this body of water that looks to be about the size of a pond. But okay, they got a boat there, a big one. Inexplicably piloted by 2 what are supposed to be high schoolers. Quick fact about this movie is I think everyone's supposed to be in high school except for like the 2 chaperones, and none of them look like they were in high school at the time of filming, so more than most. But anyway, a young man feels the need to regale his object of affection, as it were, and little does he know that he actually plays a big part in the resurrection of our favorite masked friend. So yes, and what's kind of a cool scene actually, it's pretty dumb, but I mean it's kind of a cool scene. Jason is once again brought back to life through the elemental power of electricity. And so, but I kind of like that imagery of him just sitting at the bottom of the lake. I really love the imagery of him hanging in that chain at the stone at the middle of the lake. That was a really cool one. This one is not nearly as cool, but it does keep some sense of continuity, I guess. I mean, he's down there under the remnants of the deck that was collapsed by Tina.
Every teenager in the area. And every now and then, the murders just start up.
I don't remember all the roof and stuff falling off of it, but okay. No one ever picks up any debris out of this lake at all. This is the second dock that's fell down in there, and the second body that's fallen right there in that water. They just leave it be. Whatever. The lake tells no secrets. So, yeah, what's a pretty cool looking scene, especially the underwater sparks or the lights that are coming from underneath when they do an overhead shot of the lake. I kind of dig that one. As cheesy as it is, I kind of like it. So it leads into another cool scene where now you know Jason's free, because not only is his body no longer there, you see the chains dropping off of him. So Jason's back. And very handily for him, he has two fresh victims who are basically doing what he just gravitates toward, and he goes and dispatches them. Not a whole lot to say about the scene. It is kind of startling. The very first shot you see of Jason's, which is his hands, his real shot anyway. you see Kane's fingers sticking through the gloves. Like he's like completely slime coated and wet and dressed in black and all that. I don't remember him having the gloves on at the end of the last one, but okay. But he's got gloves on now. And you see like a normal looking pinky sticking out and like another piece of a thumb or something on the other hand. So kind of just jarring, but okay, here it is. Interesting shot. But yes, once again, Jason is played by Kane Hodder, who will helm not only this one, but the next two films as well as Jason. So way to go, Kane. Oh, this also is a convenient plot device for giving Jason his mask again, because apparently everyone who has any kind of sense of humor always brings a hockey mask with them, complete with axe wound, by the way, to Crystal Lake, so Jason can pick it up. He has to be troubled going into town to the sporting goods store.
Got you good, Susie.
So yes, we are introduced once again to Jason having a mask. We are also treated to what is basically a slew of cutaway deaths in this movie, like every other Friday before it. This one got hit fairly hard with the MPA bat, I'm sure, and according to legend as well, so there's not much you can do about it. But yeah, it starts off with a bang with a couple cutaway kills, and we work our way on outward, I guess it's more like it. We work our way seaward. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, let's get down to it. This is Friday the 13th, Jason Takes a Cruise. I believe that is the jesting name for this movie. Apparently, and this is actually expounded upon somewhat with a bit of dialogue by the deckhand later in the movie. I think I got a clip of it here somewhere.
Jason Voorhees.
You're insane. Jason Voorhees has been dead for years.
He came down the river and he's gotten on board.
But apparently Crystal Lake is connected to a river, or there's one very close by. And no, it has to be connected to a river, because we see that said houseboat where the two kids were butchered has floated to the sea to meet up with the boat that they were supposed to be on that next day. I like that coincidence. That's pretty good. Jason Navy tagged along on? I'm not sure. But anyway, yes, Crystal River is connected to an ocean. It's pretty good to know. I thought it was in New Jersey. Could be wrong there, but I believe that's where it's supposed to be at, somewhere in upper New Jersey. Fascinating stuff, but I don't know, maybe I don't even want to get into it. It's connected to a body of water big enough for ocean liners, okay? So, you know, we get a kind of a cool scene of like the ghost ship coming by, you know, floating around with blood all over the window. No one knows this. It just happens to be floating towards shore, which is nice as well. So Jason, he doesn't like teenagers, so what better place to take said cruise than to do it on the boat full of high schoolers that are heading to New York City for a much-needed school vacation. So yes, we are introduced to a cast of characters who are as bland as you can possibly be, other than the jackass uncle. So Uncle Charles is played by Peter Rickman. I don't know if he's supposed to be like the dean of students, the principal, just another teacher. I don't know what he is, school counselor. I don't know what he is, but he is the definition of a stuffed shirt and very uptight. Seems like a jackass right from the get-go, and we find out later he is kind of a jackass. But jackass and that, at least he has some personality, because none of the other characters introduced here have any. There is another exception. Probably the best actor at least the best acting in this movie, outside maybe King Hodder, is actually Admiral Robinson. Yes, this little mini cruise line or whatever it is has an admiral in charge of it. Not a captain, it's an admiral. That would be beneath him, in full regalia too, piping and everything. He's loaded for bear. But Admiral Robinson is played by Warren Munson, so he doesn't have very much dialogue in this movie at all, but it comes across as fairly convincing, so I think he does the best acting in this movie, and he's a complete bit player. But hey, way to throw yourself into the role, Admiral. So there's just a little bit of opening dialogue and lots of jumping back and forth to introduce people, mostly by visual, not by any guy speaking, other than Rennie. Rennie's played by Jensen Daggett. She is the final girl in this movie, and has basically most of the screen time. So apparently she's some sort of undiscovered psychic, but a little more on that later. So they set sail. The deckhand, the crazy deckhand, is supposed to be another crazy Ralph. Apparently he knows all about Jason's forays around Crystal Lake, which is a river connected to the ocean, and apparently this guy spends a lot of time in this port, and he knows all about what's going on with Jason. But very convenient plot device. But we waste very little time into starting the body count upon the ship. Now, before I get into it too much, well, first off, the first kill is in the boiler room, which is actually kind of a cool scene, a cool murder. It does lead into probably the worst problem of this movie, and that's teleporting Jason, but we'll get on that a little bit more later. But yeah, that's kind of a cool first kill, just different, I guess. But, somewhat worthy of the series. And basically, there's not a whole lot else to recommend about this movie other than a couple of good kills. But that notwithstanding, we'll get to Jason's newfound powers later on, because they make themselves more and more apparent as time goes on. So, yeah, as if Jason didn't have enough going for him, now he has the instant teleport capability. He's a real mage, that Jason. So, yeah, there's some useless inane dialogue here and there, and some pointless character building scenes that don't really build any character whatsoever. So let's get some kills. It's been a little while, so maybe one of the most inventive kills, probably the most inventive kill in this movie, is the somewhat infamous sauna scene where Jason makes good use of a hot rock, and he finds a new home for it, basically in some poor chap's chest cavity. Yeah, he had a good steam. But meanwhile, while Jason is now culling the herd, as it will, Rennie is suddenly developing psychic powers, and she is having visions of Jason. She has multiple ones in this movie. They become more and more grotesque. He starts off as kind of normal looking, like a drowning boy or whatever, and then he works his way into more disfigurement, and he gets a little bigger, and he gets slimier as the movie progresses. But yes, she sees him constantly for some reason. It's kind of semi-explained later. Maybe. I don't know. She apparently has some sort of psychic connection to Jason due to some childhood trauma brought on by jackass uncle. So, getting past all of the kind of ridiculous hallucination scenes and some more inane dialogue from people, we get into... Oh yeah, I forgot, there was another one. I'm sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. There was one other character trait one of the other people showed, and that was, I can't remember her name. I'm not going to look up every actor and actress because most of their roles were so small. But basically the mean girl in this movie. The one who tries to blackmail Uncle Charles, the stuffed shirt. She's like a very high-grade sociopath, drug user, uses people to get what she wants, and not afraid to blackmail. And then she pushes Rennie off, who she knows is scared of water, so one would tend to correlate that with maybe not being such a good swimmer. Yes, she pushes her off in the middle of the ocean. So basically, I think she's trying to kill her. She laughs it off. Of course, she's, bite the bullet, but... you know, that's one of the ones you're cheering for. So good job acting on that one. But then some other stuff happens. It's nothing really worth talking about. And then we come into like probably my favorite kill in the whole movie. Probably is this one, and it's really simple. It's understated. It's kind of recreation of the silhouette kill in Part 4, when you see Jason's shadow stabbing one of the twins in the back during a lightning strike. I like that one. I love that imagery, and it also kind of leads into my belief that you don't have to have a lot of blood to make a good kill for these kind of movies. So this one's cool. It's Jason kind of creeping up behind the first mate, as it will, or if you will, and kind of harpooning him through the back. It's got really cool symbolism. I like the green in the background, the control room. It's like a lot of rain out there. The only thing that makes this kill not so great, other than maybe some physical problems, it doesn't look like it's jabbing into him quite right, but whatever, is the sound. It would have been so much more effective if you couldn't hear him grunting and, you know what I mean? It was just, if it was just silent and all you hear was the rain, and it makes it feel like a coffin, like he's getting killed inside a coffin or something. It's just, I don't know. Just, I think it's a cool kill. You know, it's low budget or whatever, but it's probably the best one in this movie. So, hey, there you go. So, okay, by this point, even our erstwhile brain deads have figured out that yes, there's a problem on board. So they all meet into the room with two bodies in it too. It's kind of curious. In the crow's nest, if you, or the captain's wheelhouse, if you will, and they're having a discussion there, rather calmly actually too, for considering how many people have died already. But yeah, Uncle Charles just proves he's still a jackass, and you know, he does make a couple salient points here, as opposed to some of the others who don't have anything to add. He does try to exert his authority, which is finally left off by probably the only other character in this movie with any personality. That's Julius. Julius, played by Vincent Craig Dupree. He's the boxer. We've already established earlier on that he's a boxer, so that could come into play later. So Crazy Ralph once again makes an appearance to.
You're all gonna die. You're the last ones. He's come back for you.
Well, he's not even red herring in this one because everyone knows it's Jason, but everyone else thinks maybe he might have something to do with it. Of course, we're a little slow on the uptake, but whatever, let him run free some more, who cares? Some more stuff happens, another body or two, I think, appears, some more Jason teleporting, and we get to... The other one's probably my favorite stylistically, the harpoon in the back or whatever, but this has got to be the best kill, and this is completely bloodless. It's the girl in the dance hall. It's a strangulation scene, and it's kind of brutal. Of course, Jason's teleporting around the room like a friggin' Merlin on frickin' drugs, but and Kane looks like he's going pretty rough. Kane has said in the past he's a little bit rough with the actors on purpose. Gets realism out of him, but you know, you don't want to take too many takes of this stuff too, so you have to get it right. But he lays hands upon her, and not like a faith healer, that's for sure. So I like the fact that he's going to town down there, and she's crumpled, and then he changes his vector and he decides to lift her up. And then her head hits the ceiling at the end, and a little thump or whatever, and then he just slings her down when she's dead. I mean, if the MPA cut him kicking the sleeping bag after the sleeping bag kill, I can't believe they let this one go, because this seems a lot more violent than kicking the bag. He just flings her to the ground, and once again, the stunt woman or stunt person, I don't know who, the man or woman, hissing woman by the size, she takes a hard bump here because she can't break her fall at all, so I wouldn't be surprised if she dislocated her shoulder or something. But yeah, great kill. Probably in my top 10 actually in the series. Just I like the way it's executed. It's so different than anything else you've seen in there. You got strobes going off all around, you got music going on in the background, and you're in a place that's normally, you know, a happy area, and then this happens. So sorry. Okay, so after Jason offs the found footage guy, here comes another kind of an inexplicable scene. Jason is contemplating the fire alarm for a few frames. And it's cutting back and forth between the control room and Jason. And then he hits the fire alarm.
Oh! What's that? The fire alarm!
Okay, the Uncle Charles, otherwise known as Professor Jackass, he makes some allusion, and I guess it actually, this does make sense. He's like, someone only hit the fire alarm to panic us and get us to run, out to where he wants us to go or whatever. Okay, that makes sense. It doesn't make sense for Jason because, for one thing, he's never done this. Okay, Jason can't read. He died as a little boy, for goodness sake. He's never even seen a fire alarm. I mean, the chances seem pretty good. He's lived in the woods for his entire life, How would he even know what it is? But he hits it and basically gives everyone a chance to escape because the ship is flooding. It's burning and flooding. It's got all kinds of stuff going on right now. So, I don't know. Quit reading too much of this stuff, Dave. Before everyone can jump ship, we go back to Rennie in her room, who's hallucinating once again, and which is actually kind of a scary scene, but for the wrong reasons. She was really freaking out at this scene where Jason punches his head through the window and then reaches through and grabs her and he pulls her toward the window. And the reason is, if you'll look, I'll try to put an arrow of it somewhere, but there's actually a huge shard of glass sticking out, and her face it's coming right at her, and he's pulling her toward the window, and I guess she's trying to pull away a little bit. I don't know if she broke character here. I sure as hell would have, because it's going toward her cheek or her eye. So, I mean, wow, that was a close one, but I mean, I'm sure Kay knew it there. Well, he can actually see it or not. Maybe if I ever interview him, I'll ask him. But, so yeah, just one close call. And so all the kids jump into the life raft, the ones that are left, and the dog somehow makes his way there, who hasn't been seen basically the entire movie. Julius is fished out of the water. I'm not sure. He was thrown out a while ago. Maybe he's cut up the boat somehow. Don't ask these kind of questions. Physics take a back seat in this movie. So they're rowing and rowing and rowing ad nauseum, but luckily the boat seemed to have made it most of the way there. It wasn't that long of a trip from where they were going for, because they row up to New York and they're pretty happy and joyous to be there, and it seems like they're just happy to be in the city, not so much that they're saved or whatever, but okay. So they pull up to the docks, and of course they have lots of issues. As soon as they basically hit land, they're mugged. Rennie is kidnapped and looks like he's about to get sexually assaulted, and then the assaulters inject heroin into her. I guess that's what junkies do, is they take their precious heroin that they rob, cheat, steal for, and kill for, and then they shoot it into random strangers. Okay. Whatever. It just gives some more people we're glad to see die. But Jason is all over these people. He has a real hard-on for these guys. He will just not let them go. He wants to wipe out every member of the ship for some reason. He's in a city now, surrounded by people he could be killing if that's what he truly wants. But he's going after these kids. He ignores everybody else, basically. But, yeah, he's a lot of cat and mouse, back and forth. And then we finally get to Uncle Stuffed Shirt. We did find out that maybe the connection between Rennie and Jason was, I don't know if this is a dream or what, but when she was a little girl, he took her out in the water and she was scared to swim, whatever, in the middle of the lake, Crystal Lake, great place for it, and he pushes her off the boat on purpose to make her swim, It's kind of that tough love stuff, I guess. And then in the scene, little kid Jason, pulls her down into the water. That's kind of a creepy scene. You feel kind of sorry for the little girl. It's like, oh my gosh, that would freak me out too. Of course, is it real or is it not real? I don't know. Whatever. I quit thinking about things like that. But, so maybe that's what the connection is. I don't know. It's kind of like a Michael Myers thing going on with his family. I guess they have a psychic connection. Whatever. Anyway, Doctor's going to meet his demise. In maybe the worst example of the teleporting that Jason does in this movie. I mean, he goes from walking slowly behind the professor. The professor runs into a building, runs upstairs, and this is all within 10 seconds. and then Jason throws him out the window. Apparently he teleported into the building ahead of him and tossed him out the window. I don't know, whatever. And then he finishes him off in pretty disgusting style into a vat of waste product. Oh, and for those that don't know, this movie is called Jason Takes Manhattan, and that was the big sell of this movie. Very little of it's actually in Manhattan or New York, period. It's very little of it left in a city. Only maybe the last 30 minutes of the movie are in a city. Not even 30 minutes, probably 20 minutes are in the city. And then most of that's actually, I think, Toronto. and then they had like just enough budget, I think, for like one night of filming in Manhattan, looking at Times Square and all that. But one of the funny things about that is I think they got some of their like bit actors out of the Canadian pool, because this New York cop, he sounds like a freaking Mountie when he's talking. Take a listen.
You're right. I find it a tall tale indeed, but you seem like honest folks, so I'm inclined to believe at least some of what you say.
I mean, he's just so polite and all. It's it's so perfect. We're not going for realism here, all right? We needed a cop. So a lot of more running back and forth. Basically, everyone's gone now. It's just Rennie and whatever the guy's name is. I can't remember. They go down to the subway, which is kind of a good idea for them. Get around people, but Jason doesn't care. He walks right through the subway. He boards the subway. Once again, maybe using his teleport powers. I don't know. But there's kind of two cool scenes in here. One obvious and one much less so. One of the seats they sit in has a clear plastic divider between it, and it says Quayton lives on it. Cheeky reference to Jason Lives part 6. Also, I just noticed it when I was doing this review, and they actually do mention this as well in the commentary. Kane Hodder actually mentions this. It was his first time seeing it too, so hard to see. But down in the bottom right here, right when they're getting ready to exit the subway car, there's an actual Jason Lives piece of graffiti in there. So, fun fact. So they go topside, and this scene is unintentionally funny, but only for those in the know, so I'll set this up for you real quick. Of course, they wanted a picture of them coming out of the subway, but, for whatever reason, filming, they couldn't get it. But it shows like a dividing, or not a retention wall, but like a dividing wall that has subway on it, so that's where they're coming out of, right? It looks like they're coming out of the ground and leaving the subway, right? Stairwell. There's no stairs there. It wasn't even real. It was like a fake stanchion they put up there. So the actors kind of did like kids, They pretend like they were really short or whatever, and then they pretend like they're walking upstairs, but they're just on flat ground. So just very inventive. I like it. It's very inventive. But if you look really close, you can see their feet at the bottom. It's not flush with the ground, so it kind of gives it away a little bit. But you would never know that. You wouldn't know that. You wouldn't see that unless you were actually looking for it. But just hilarious, the kind of things that they have to do to cover up for budget and time. This movie also has an appearance by another Jason actor, actually, Mr. King Krosinger. He apparently is the cook in this diner that Rennie and her boyfriend are running through, and he tries to stop Jason, much to his misfortune.
Get over here!
But he's a big dude, man. My gosh. Yeah. So he plays Jason in Freddy vs. Jason, which we will eventually get to. So their only route left to escape now seems to be through the sewers. That's whatever. It had to be New York sewers, right? Apparently the sewers not only have toxic waste laying around, which Rennie uses to good effect on our masked Avenger here. But oh man, I'll get to the rest of it in a second. But apparently this thing floods out every night with toxic waste, kind of an 80s trope, So yeah, they're on a real timer here. So anyway, this bucket of toxic waste or just sitting around, Randy throws it in Jason's face, causing the big reveal to happen. And wow, just wow. So I've heard mentioned that he looks kind of like a decayed Cabbage Patch Kid. Jason's face says. I think he looks like a decayed Garbage Pail Kid. But whatever, he just looks freaking ridiculously bad. After the incredible makeup work that was done on part 7, and heck, even part 6, you don't only see his face that well in the intro. What happened? I know he's been underwater again, but it's like he grew more flesh. And he's got like, I don't know what you call it, like cartoon Frankenjaw. I can't remember the bully's name in Phineas and Ferb. But he's got like that tooth or whatever that comes up over. So, like a jack-o'-lantern mouth. He's like a rotten gray jack-o'-lantern. And when she hits him with this stuff, he howls. And he makes this, I don't know what it is. It's like a hyena getting run over by a car or something. Just this weird, like, now he's screaming in pain. He feels pain now. That's interesting. Anyway, he just looks completely ridiculous. But, okay, I'll get beyond it now. So basically, they're trapped now. They can't get out this grate. They climb up this ladder, and here comes the water. Jason's right there at their heels, though. He's recovered enough to go finish the job. And now the toxic waste coming. And now I guess he sees this water coming, or if he knows it's whatever it is. I don't know. And apparently it trips something in his mind. Because he's like, no, Mommy, I'm afraid of the water, or something like that. Not the water. And apparently he's afraid of water again. I don't know. And he starts vomiting up water. I kid you not. Okay, makes sense. I don't know. Maybe it's like a recreation of him dying as a kid. I don't know. Whatever. Once again, Dave, quit focusing on minutia. But interesting thing about this, it's kind of disgusting. But interesting thing about this little scene here is, for those who don't know, is Kane Hodder actually threw up on command on this. He drank like 2 gallons of water. I think he saw 2 pitchers of water, and yeah, that's actually him vomiting up the water on cue. That's getting into the role right there. That's embracing the method. So this leads into Jason screeching and deconstructing some. His face looking even worse somehow than it did before. Obviously a clay relic puppet or something. I don't know what it is, but it looks awful. And then getting to the absolute best, and by best I mean worst part of the movie, is the director's attempt to leave the door open for more movies if need be. Yes, the toxic waste, which had previously melted his face somewhat, now worked as an analgesic, and it scrubbed 30 years off him, 40 years off him. Yes, Jason's turned into a little kid. He appears to be dead, but he's a little kid now. That's how toxic waste works, apparently. That's magical fairy dust. Yeah, he's a little kid. That's how Jason is offed. And everyone lives happily ever after. The dog finds him again in this gigantic city right away. And they walk off happily, no care in the world, despite the trail of bodies that's littered behind them. And that's Friday the 13th, Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. Yep, Jason takes a cruise. So, let's talk about what I thought about this movie, if it was good or bad. I actually talked a lot longer. I was only going to talk maybe like 15 minutes of this movie at most, because it really is probably the worst one in the series. But you know me, I rambled on. So let's talk about some good and some bad points. Let's talk about good first. That'd be a lot shorter. Cinematography is okay. Some interesting camera angles. Some of the deaths are fairly creative. You don't see very much of them. Like I said, standouts are the harpoon in the back and the strangulation scene, and the hot rock scene is a cool one. Like I said, you don't barely see it. Jason does seem pretty aggressive in this one, and his attacks have anger again, much more like Part 4, when he seems angry when he was killing people. Kane seems to really channel that in this one, so he seems angry in here than he did in 7. He seemed real mechanical in Part 7, just a killing machine. In this one, he seems like a rage killing machine. So, Kane's pretty good. I really feel for him. God, he is soaked constantly in this movie. He is always wet. He's always got slime all over him. It must have been a miserable shoot. So, kudos for him for that. actually like the idea of pulling Jason out of the woods for a little bit. I like the cruise ship. I didn't care about him being in the city at all. I didn't actually like that at all. It took all fear out of things. But like in a confined area, like a boat or something like that, I think it's a pretty interesting place to stick him. I mean, it does make him creeping around unseen a lot. A little bit hard to swallow, but these movies are hard to swallow anyway, so whatever. Don't think too much into it. But I mean, that's not much else good I can say about it. I like the Admiral. He was cool. But so let's get on some bad. The acting is awful.
What's that? Fire alarm!
I don't. Once again, if I blame the actors, there's very little speaking roles for most of these tertiary characters. Period. I mean, there's lots of characters seen you never heard of. I mean, they never speak a line in the movie, or you've seen them once in a frame shot and then never see them again. So I know that group of kids that the one teacher led down to the dance hall. They've all got to be dead. They probably went down with a ship. She put them all in one area and then left them. But yeah, just the acting is atrocious. Everyone is bad except for Jason, and Julius is okay. I mean, he's a little too exuberant, a little too chipper for the circumstances he's under, but at least they give him some characterization. Everyone else is just bland. Maybe the movie was rushed the most always they are, but they just, I mean, you get spoiled on seeing like characters from part 4 and part 7 especially, or excuse me, part 6, and then these are just hard to watch. Bad. Jason looks awful. His uniform looks wrong, or his outfit looks wrong. His face looks completely ridiculous. It's the worst it's looked in the entire series, and not even close. He's like a mummified pumpkin or something. I don't have the words to describe him, but if you've seen it, you know. The scenery's bad for the most part. Like, all the city stuff is kind of, it looks like set pieces, you know, big, huge, wide alleyways and derelict buildings and just like fresh spray paint and all that everywhere. It's just kind of goofy. The ending, oh my god, why is Jason turned into a little kid? I mean, what kind of, I don't know, they could have melted him and maybe he reconstituted himself somewhere else. It made more sense than 9 did, right? But whatever. So yeah, there's just not a lot going for this movie. All right, let's just get down there. So what score would I give this in the was it good scale of 1 to 5? Well, this is a 1 if there's ever a 1 out there. As far as Friday movies go, it's just so bad. The first one had a lot of draggy scenes, but you know, at least there was some characterization. You didn't have to suspend your disbelief so much, and there wasn't so many gaping plot holes. Yeah, this one's just awful. I'm tempted to give it a 2 just for kindness' sake, and don't get me wrong, I didn't hate watching the movie. Once again, my better half said that she kind of liked it. Well, not kind of liked it, but it wasn't as bad as I made it out how bad it was going to be. So, just there's not a lot to recommend here. I'm gonna have to give it a 1. It's only for the hardest of the hardcore. It does fall into the so bad it's good kind of genre, though. Unintentional hilarity and just not even B-movie quality. We're talking C grade here.
I don't know if it's art, but I like it.
Movie making somewhat. Like I said, it's so enjoyable. I don't hate anybody in or any performances in the movie, just that they weren't given a chance to actually perform for the most part. So yeah, it's definitely a very, very forgettable and missable part of the series. So if I was to recommend probably 1 in the entire series, including part 9 in there, I'd probably actually say you can skip this one. In fact, it's probably better for you if you do. But it is still Jason, you know. He's not quite as changed as he was in the next 2 iterations, so take it for what it's worth. Just 1 star out of 4. I'm sorry. Like I said, I just can't give it 2 as much as I would like to. But anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay tuned for my review of part 9, probably in another week or 2, and you know, the next 3 in the series after that follows. Yeah, they'll be coming your way as soon as I can muster the courage to soldier through them. So. Until next time, this is Genome, hanging his head outside the cruise ship. Out.